Welcome to Heroes First Podcast, sponsored by Fund the First, the nation's leading verified crowdfunding platform for first responders, military, and medical professionals. And now, your host, broadcasting from Long Island, New York, Robert Garland.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this episode of Heroes First Podcast. Each show you will hear from a new guest that portrays excellence in the first responder, military, or medical professional field. If you're an active or retired member of the service, or even a family member or a friend, then this show is for you. Our podcast is also proud partners with the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network and the Law Enforcement Today Podcast Network. I would like to present to you our guest for episode 35 of this podcast series, Sam Royer. Sam, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you this evening?
Good. Pleasure to have you on the show. I'm sorry that we're starting a couple minutes late. I actually, are you into cryptocurrencies at all?
I am actually not. I probably should have jumped when everybody told me to, but no.
You're not too late.
Yeah,
you are not too late. There's a big scene right now with NFTs, and everyone's like, what is an NFT? It's basically it's art. I'm not sure if you're into digital art at all or any art, but you're using your cryptocurrency to trade for art. So I was in this big group conference about this new project that's coming out. So we're trying to get into it. And it's just,
that's cool.
Whole other thing. But
eventually
everyone will understand it, but we're probably 20 or 30 years away from that. So
gotcha.
I'll be dead. Yeah, we all will. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I know we connected through a couple of different means, a couple of different channels. On. But I want to hear about you. And I know you were in the Marines, so thank you for your service and everything you've done.
Yeah, no problem.
But let's get into that for a moment. You served from 93 to 96?
Yep. Actually, long story short, I got out early to become an officer. And then, weirdly enough, General Mattis was a colonel at the time. He was my regimental commander. And I had a recommendation from him to become an officer. And I married a Marine. Unfortunately, didn't want the military life, so I never went back in. But then 9/11 happened and I went in for a period of time. And, it was something that, let's just say, interestingly enough, a little over a year ago, General Mattis actually called me on my cell phone. And he was obviously Secretary of Defense, former Secretary of Defense. And it's just kind of crazy because I was sitting there and I was training somebody. So these ear pods, she had one on, I had one on. And all I hear is, "Hey, Marine, Jim Mattis." And I'm thinking to myself, what client do I have named Jim Mattis? And it just hit me, right? So I suddenly become this stellar Marine. And her name's Sammy, actually. She's like, "Man, did you change?" And I said, "Yeah, kind of." And so it was a pretty cool 6 to 7 minute conversation. And, I thanked him for his trust back then. I told him I wish I would have followed through and stuck it out for the time I wanted to. And he said, "You know what's funny, Marine?" He said, "There's this new thing called Google." And he said, "I kind of Googled you before I called you." And he said, "It looks like you're doing some great things. So I'm proud of you." And he said, "You don't have to wear a uniform to serve." So yeah, it was pretty cool. That's kind of had a little tear. I'm a bigger guy, but kind of had a little tear in my eye. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's got to be a humbling phone call to get. That's for sure.
It was very different. Yeah. And then 2 days later, he denounced Trump and boom. 2 days before when everybody finds out I had a call with him, he's like the most amazing guy. 2 days later, all of a sudden, he's like the worst guy in the world. So it's just funny how people just swing, So
it's always, what have you done for me lately? It's not, careers could be careers, but it's what have you done for me lately?
Well, the greatest thing about that, man, is that 20 some years earlier, my congressman at the time when I was a kid actually was one of his best friends. And that's actually how I got the introduction to him. And, back then when the things happened with Bill Clinton, he was a Democrat and he stepped out and said, "I think Bill Clinton should step down." He was up for Secretary of the Navy and he ended up not becoming Secretary of the Navy, but politics is a weird thing. So
that it is, especially, we won't get into it, but
I know we were supposed to talk about politics, but
we can keep going on. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it, but
I was very fortunate to meet some great people in my life and he was one of them. So it's cool.
That's great. No, that really is great. So, again, thank you for your service. When you served, where did you serve? Were you overseas at all?
So no, I was stationed all over the East Coast, California, Korea, and Japan, but I've never been in a combat zone. Always was kind of in a safe spot. And, if anything, the worst thing was jumping off cliffs. So, but now it's one of my biggest regrets in life that I didn't stick it out, because I was healthy, mentally, physically, and I should have stuck it out, and I didn't. So that's why I kind of fight so hard for what I do now.
Okay. Well, you became an officer, right? Where were you?
No, I didn't actually. No, I got out as a corporal.
Oh, you
So
okay. Okay.
never picked up that third stripe for sergeant. So it's
still
but,
great though. It's still
no,
great.
it was good stuff. I would recommend it to anybody who's looking to go in the military. Definitely, great thing to do. So
no, it's great. So from there, did you go right into mortgaging?
Yeah, so I moved to California, actually. My former wife was a Marine. She was stationed out of El Toro before they closed. And I saw a job in the paper. It said $1,300 a month plus bonus. And I thought, man, I made $1,200 in the Marines. This is great. I walked into this company. It was a mortgage company owned by three guys. And it was kind of interesting because, walking into that company, everybody was a Baywatch queen. Other than the first guy I meet was about a 400-pound computer guy. And this is when Netscape Navigator, and this is years ago, this is 1997. He goes, dude, this will be the best job you ever have. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, he goes, look around. And I said, man, I just got married. I said, I can't really be looking around. And so it was kind of funny. But, that's where I got my mortgage career started. A couple months later, I got recruited by a bigger company that actually became a national lender. And I've just had a phenomenal ride in the mortgage banking industry. So, yeah, it's been 24 plus years now.
And the name of that is the Heroes First Home Loans, right?
Heroes First Home Loans is something that I came up with a couple of years ago, and it was strictly to honor people that serve. There are a lot of companies that, they talk. They have a lot of big, how would you say it? Big words about what they do and how they do it. Well, the thing that we do is very sincere to me, is that, we're never going to charge somebody a lender fee. And what that means is very simply, a lot of companies don't charge lender fees now for veterans and stuff. But the fact that we should not, these people don't get into their jobs, all as you see on the screen: military, police, firefighters, educators, healthcare, ministry, and civil service. None of those individuals get into their professions to become millionaires. They're not suddenly gonna just get a big bonus and get $1 million check or $100,000 check. They get in because they love their community and they love their country. So with these individuals, we're not going to charge them money, any kind of junk fees, to get a mortgage from us, because we make money on selling mortgages and, on the back end. And then the other thing that we do is we protect them. We used to give gift cards out, and that really wasn't as prominent because it was just a gift card. I mean, it helped them out. They could buy curtains and stuff like that. But what we found is that most of these individuals, what they care about is their family and others. So we actually partnered up with an insurance company that we get them a policy for the first 3 years they have a mortgage with us. If they would accidental death or dismemberment, if something would happen to them. So let's say a firefighter, right? He's off duty, he's driving home, and he gets killed by a drunk driver. His family's getting a check up to $300,000 to either pay down or pay off his mortgage.
Now, is this nationwide?
It is. So we are called partner. We're actually owned by a company called Churchill Mortgage, and we are a division of Churchill Mortgage. So yes, we are spreading. We're trying to find the right people to serve in the communities. And it's been fun. I mean, right now we have presence in Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Virginia, as far as physical presence. And then we are expanding out. But again, it's trying to find the right people that aren't in it for a gimmick. This isn't a gimmicky thing. We don't, here's a very blunt one. We don't pay the most, right? There's a lot of mortgage companies that mortgage originators make massive amounts of money, but all these people you see on the screen, they all have a heart to serve. And what they care about is others. They are all feeding their families by doing mortgages. But on this screen, you will see a lot of Marines. You will see a retired colonel in the Marine Corps. You'll see former police officers. There are actually two people on my team. One actually lost his brother in the line of duty. The other one lost her husband in the line of duty. So you don't really hear of that much. We have we have an Army captain, Carly there. She is an Army captain. And, combat veterans we have on our team. And actually, we're updating this page because we have a couple other people on our team now as well. So it's good stuff.
So how are you guys getting the word out with what you're doing?
Things like this, and actually we have national legislation right now that's been introduced. I came up with a proposal to Congress or congressman. It's called the Helper Act. It's homes for every local protector, educator, and responder. And actually, you can type it in. If you go to www.thehelperact.us, you will see the website. And what we're doing is we are getting the same type of VA home loan benefits for police, firefighters, EMTs, and teachers. So what happens is that a couple years ago, I came up with this idea. I always struggled, like my story started. I struggled. I was never in a combat zone, but just like this morning, right? We actually were working with two different police officers where they were teaching female realtors about self-defense. Well, these two police officers have a collective time in service of over 35 years. One's actually an Army veteran. But the one individual can buy a house just like I can as a VA with a VA home loan. But the other one, she's one of my best friends. She can't buy a house like I can. And she sat there with a gun on her hip and with a vest on, a bulletproof vest, right? So what happens is that I just struggled with that these individual heroes in their community couldn't purchase like I could. So Congressman Rutherford, actually, he's up on the screen there. He is a former sheriff of Jacksonville, Florida, 41 years in law enforcement. Well, this man, somebody invited me to go clay shooting with him. Well, I can tell you this, as a Marine, I was very embarrassed because I hit about half of them. He missed one. Wow. So he kicked my butt, right? This guy, he's just an amazing clay shooter. Well, I asked him if I could the following week have about 5 minutes with him. 2 minutes into the conversation, he said, Sam, I'm going to stop you here. He said, 1974, I believe it was. He said, there were 2 times I borrowed money from my parents. He said, the first time is when I had my first child. He said, the second time is when I bought my first house. He said, I'm in, I get it, right? So what happened was that was July 28th of 2020. Actually, it was a couple of days before that. But July 28th is when I met a woman named Lizzie Messer in his office. She's in her 20s, and she totally got behind this as far as her heart. And what I mean by that, when you're trying to get legislation done in Congress or the Senate, if you don't have staffers that truly understand it and are behind it, it's not going to go as strongly as if you had somebody that does. Well, Lizzie had massive heart for this. So over the next couple months, we crafted the Helper Act. Again, it's homes for every local protector, educator, and responder. And it took us about 8 months, maybe 9 months to actually go through the vetting process and everything else. And then you'll see on the screen, Congressman Lawson, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman from New Jersey, and Congressman John Katko from New York. They are the 4 original co-sponsors. Now, this is what's so cool about this. If you want to stop it real quick. Yeah. There are 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats there, right? So that is a bipartisan bill, right? And I know our country is there's a lot of stuff going on with regard to race and things of that nature. If you look at the demographics there, everybody is represented, and that's what's so amazing about this. They truly took on the charge to see that people that do serve in our communities need better benefits because affordability of housing right now is skyrocketing. So what's happening is, cops, teachers, firefighters, they're not getting, and EMTs, they're not getting massive bonuses. They're not getting, big pay increases. So what happens is housing appreciation is just killing them with regard to trying to have affordability. So that's why the Helper Act is so instrumental. So as you see on the bottom here, there are a whole bunch of different people. We have, I believe, 26 or 27 now co-sponsors. And actually, I think Democrats are 16 and Republicans are either 10 or 11. And what we're doing is we are trying. So everybody in the country, you can reach out to your local congressman, your senator, and you can sit there and say, look, here's this bill. I would love for you to back it. And this is why, right? So there's obviously been a lot of news articles and things like that. Now, here's the cool part about this, Bobby. So as this was moving through Congress, or as it is moving through Congress, and we're getting co-sponsors, the thing is that, having a bill, you want to try and get it on both sides, right? If you have a bill that goes through Congress, then it has to go over to the Senate, and then it has to go through that process. Well, if you have them both going at the same time, it's going to go a lot faster. So we were fortunate enough we reached out to a bunch of different senators' offices, but we have a senator here in Florida, Senator Marco Rubio, that truly picked up the torch, just like Congressman Rutherford did. And he is now the champion on the Senate side. So actually, I know you can't really play it, but on the top, there's a great YouTube video. It's about 1:20, where that was an event that we had at a firehouse in Jacksonville, Florida, where Congressman Rutherford and Senator Rubio came and spoke about, why they backed this bill. And Senator Rubio and then Senator Ossoff from Georgia, who Senator Rubio is a Republican, Senator Ossoff's a Democrat, they both introduced it, and it's now Senate Bill 2981. So we have the Helper Act in both the House and the Senate. And now our primary job is to get this thing moving forward so that every single firefighter, every single EMT, every single police officer, and every single educator in this country will be able to buy a house just like I can as a military veteran, just like any military member can. Now, last thing I'll say, I know I'm talking a lot.
No, I love this. This is incredible. Keep going.
Yeah, so VA is under the Veterans Administration. This program would have to be under HUD or FA. It would be an FHA program, and it basically mirrors what a VA home loan is. So there's 100% financing. There's no monthly mortgage insurance. And what happens is there is a premium that is charged, but that premium can be financed into the mortgage, right? Just like a VA home loan. Now, what that does, and I'm just using a very simple number, if somebody is buying a $200,000 house, right? If they did a traditional FHA mortgage, their payment would be about $90 more than if they went with the Helper Act. So $90 times 12 months, that is what? Oh my gosh, it is a little bit late, my math. $1,080 a year, right? But the opposite side, let's say you have a lieutenant in the police department and they make a pretty good wage, right? But what happens is that $90 equates to about $25,000 to $30,000 more in house. So the housing affordability, let's look at Washington. Washington, D.C., houses are probably $600,000 to $700,000. Well, I don't know exactly what officers make there, but that savings monthly would be about $270 a month, or they could buy about $75,000 to $90,000 more in house than if they went with a traditional FHA program. So the affordability factor is huge. And this is also, today we had a call with the senator's office, and one of their concerns was the cost factor to the federal government. Now, FHA, right, and VA are government-backed loans. So what happens is, like, I have a VA loan on my house that I'm sitting in. If I don't pay the bill, the VA is on the hook for it. What happens with FHA is the same thing. If I don't pay the bill, if I have an FHA house, I don't pay the bill, the federal government is on the hook to the lender for it, right? Well, the Helper Act, if it doesn't go through, they can still get an FHA mortgage and the federal government's still on the hook. So all we're really asking the federal government to do is extend the benefit to cops, teachers, firefighters, and EMTs so that they don't have the down payment requirement. So their monthly mortgage insurance is not there so they can afford it more. So the question was, how much is this going to cost the federal government? The only way it's going to cost the federal government money is if people default. So if a cop doesn't pay his mortgage, then it's going to cost the federal government. But look at pandemics, look at, even recessions. Who are the people that keep their jobs? Cops, teachers, firefighters, and EMTs. So in theory, this program truly is set up that it shouldn't fail, because really these individuals are going to have their job. Now, I know there is a lot going on in the country. Some people are losing their job due to all the political, the vaccine, everything else. But
we just got mandated the NYPD.
Yeah. Really? Yeah. So if you look historically, it really should be something that, these individuals keep their jobs, unless you're really just a bad cop or a bad firefighter, or you're just not a good teacher, you're going to lose your job. But historically, they're going to keep their job. So the cost factor, and that's what I tried to explain to the senator's office, the cost is only there. There's obviously setup costs. Like, they have to put the computer program in place and things like that. But FHA is already set up. So it's not that. It's just if default would happen. But I even laid out numbers that this program actually funds FHA a little bit more up front. So FHA should have a pretty good pot in the event some catastrophic kind of downturn happened. Sorry, that was mine. But so that's the kind of stuff that, the Helper Act is something I've worked on for a lot of years, just trying to get it. I reach out to a lot of congressional offices, and unfortunately, they don't always get back to you if you're not a constituent right in their area. But now we have a lot of good traction. And honestly, just even seeing Fund the First, and you guys have been all over the media. The biggest struggle for me is I hear, I have the news on right next to me, and I hear all these stories of different things happening, right? We actually have something that is great, that truly can change the heart of America. And it's like, I'm trying to get media coverage, and it's tough, man. It's tough because there's so much stuff going.
Fox and Friends.
Well, I reached out to everybody, and you know what? I'm waiting for one of my cop buddies to knock on a door saying, hey, you might be stalking this person. I'm not stalking anybody. Like, I've reached out on Instagram. We've emailed. Like, I actually know people that know them personally. Actually, one guy's a New York cop that I do the Tour de Force ride with. I just reached out to him. I didn't realize he's friends with one of them, right?
I'll connect with them.
That would be great because look, this is a Fox and Friends type of thing. I mean, Absolutely. This is something that I don't care. Look, and some people say I shouldn't say this, but I'm speaking who I am, right? This has been grassroots for me for a long time. Some people don't like cops, but they like teachers and firefighters, right? Some people right now don't like teachers, but they like cops and firefighters. So and everybody loves a firefighter. It's a joke, right? You know that. So especially being a cop, I didn't realize you were a cop. Yeah. So thank you for your service.
Thanks.
But yeah, but so it's like there's something in there for everybody. And the thing is, like teachers, I've had a couple people that are in Congress and Senate fight back because of teachers. Teachers, 99% of teachers want to teach. My wife's best friend actually runs an elementary school in New York City, right? She wants to teach. She loves to be there. She's a principal. She wants her teachers there. Her teachers want to be there. The unions really are the ones that these people should be upset with, not the individual teacher. And that's, trying to get through to some people on that is that let's look right now, we are in a snapshot of time that is very difficult for many people. Historically, though, I bring up, so one thing, the gentleman that's helping me on Capitol Hill, his name's George McElwee. George and I grew up together, and we're from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, actually not too far from New York. We went to high school at The Rock, right? So I've been bringing up The Rock and all these different things. So I'm hoping somewhere it'll tag and he'll say, oh, this is cool, But Dwayne, our football coach, Jody Swick, was a teacher. Jody Swick, Dwayne spoke about him on Oprah. He spoke about him on in his book, I believe. And Jody Swick changed his life. Jody Swick was the one that walked up to him in the cafeteria, or actually the teacher lounge, and said, what the hell are you doing in here? Right. And then he's the one that said, I want you to play football for us. He got Dwayne on the right track, and he's a teacher. Well, guess what? Dwayne is pretty much the most famous guy in the world now. So it's like a teacher did that, and it was that one man. Now, unfortunately, Coach Swick died of cancer a couple of years ago, but it's like there are so many people that they look at this shell of people, but it's really the core group. Cops, how many people are very negative towards cops? But just like in the mortgage world, people look at us sometimes as car salesmen. There's 1% to 2% of people in the mortgage world that just really don't do a good job, and they're not nice people. But the other 98% are busting their butt. They're working hard for their clients. They're sitting up. It's 10 o'clock at night now. I'm not trying to sell a mortgage, but trust me, I was just working on applications for people because it's their home. It's something that they are going to take pride in. And my job is to make sure it gets done correctly. So, and my team, and I have a great team. If it wasn't for my team, this Helper Act wouldn't be where it's at today, because I wouldn't be able to focus on that and do mortgages. So I'm really appreciative of them.
Now, I want to backtrack for a second. I'm happy that you take into consideration teachers. So originally, when we launched Fund the First, we verify all beneficiaries of every single fundraising campaign. And in the fundraising industry, there's a huge amount of fraud, huge amount of scams. So people are very, very skeptical, and they don't necessarily want to donate to anything. So what we did is we implemented a full verification model. And now we verify through ID.me. And I'm sure you're familiar with ID.me.
I just got mine.
Oh, good. So we verify through ID.me all beneficiaries, but they have to be first responder, military, medical, or medical professional. Recently, we just changed it a couple months ago to include teachers. And we changed our slogan. Instead of for first responders, military, medical professionals, it's now for those who serve. Because we look at teachers as, hey, they're serving the community for the children. I have 3
Yeah.
kids. You have 5 kids. You know,
Yeah, I know.
if something happens in that school, we rely on those teachers to protect them in that moment.
I
Right.
had a politician once ask me, they said, how are teachers heroes? Because heroes first, we serve teachers, right? I said, her name was Marcia. She was a state rep in Pennsylvania, sweetest lady. I said, Marcia, I said, my kids they were teenagers, like early teenagers at the time. I said, I have 3 of them. I said, now think about being in a room with 30 kids that are in puberty highway and you have to take care of them. She goes, wow, that was really well said. I'm like, exactly. I said, it's crazy. Like, and especially now with how everything is happening in the world. I mean, trust me, my wife's best friend, Lisa, she tells us stories about things that happen, even outside the school where she has, because she's in the city, she has to block the street and stuff so the kids can get dropped off. Well, even neighbors act like not nice people, and she has to be the guardian of all these children.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a parent dropping my child off and she's a guardian to take care of, it's a very big responsibility. My dad was a teacher. Now he was a higher education teacher in like technical school and college, but it's still one of those things that, I had a lot of good teachers that, trust me, they put up with me, and I think they kind of pushed me out, but I'm very thankful for them. I learned a lot from them. I also learned negative things from them. I ran for judge in Pennsylvania years ago, and I remember knocking on my 2nd grade teacher's door, and she just wanted to know what I was registered, basically. And when I told her, she goes, "Oh, Sammy, I never voted for one of them, and I never can." And I was like, wow. And all she was telling me about all these great stories about me is in 2nd grade. I'm like, you didn't even look at who I am now.
Nope.
And like, served and everything else. It was all about a letter. So yeah, it's interesting. Have you heard of the Tour de Force New York?
Yeah, all those things. And
yeah, so I do that ride every year. So those guys are great guys. I do that ride. I actually
what do you use for fundraising?
What do they use? It's
you got to use Fund the First now.
Well, you got to talk to him. Mike's a great guy, actually. And actually this year I was very honored that I got invited to do the police unity tour, which That's cool. Sure like you have to be a survivor or a cop. I'm neither of. But they saw what we're doing with the Helper Act and things like that. And I was very honored to get asked to do that. So I'm trying to see. It's Group Rev. They use that Group Rev.
I think I've seen that before. There's so many platforms out there.
Yeah, there's a lot. So
well, we'll try to convince them to come to Fund the First for the next one.
Well, they're good. Yeah, I'm pretty close to them because actually the one year I fell and busted my face, so I got 20 stitches and broke my hand. So they basically know me as Crash. Yeah.
We're gonna need a fundraiser for you.
It was pretty interesting.
What are all these? I see that you have a lot of police department awards.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate that when I moved to Florida, it's kind of funny. I moved to Florida a couple of years ago because I'm from Pennsylvania, and I didn't really realize service until I got down here. And what I mean by that is that I got thrusted. One of my best buddies, her name's Lizette. She is the head motor sergeant for Daytona Beach. So she's the first female. She is a badass, and she just opened up the world to me of the Daytona Beach Police Department. That chief, who used to be the chief of Philadelphia, came down to Daytona, was the chief there, now is the sheriff of Volusia County. So I worked with him. I live up in Flagler County, which is a little bit north. Sheriff Staley there, one of the most honorable guys I've ever met in my life. Interesting story, our COO of our company, he came to Flagler Beach, and he was never introduced to a lot of officers, or he was never around that servanthood. Well, I took him to lunch with 6 officers. I think the youngest one in time in service was 28 years. Sheriff Staley had 41 or 42 at the time. And just the stories of they were 19, 20 years old, becoming cops. Sheriff Staley was shot twice, and Matt was just blown away. He's like, Sam, you opened up my eyes to life. Like, this is real stuff. I didn't realize what these men and women did and what they went through every day. Like, I even look at 911 operators down here. I would love to include them in the bill. Now, I'm going to back up. Let me just give a little disclaimer here. So when we wrote the Helper Act, what we did was we modeled it after a program called the Good Neighbor Next Door program that's already in existence. But the Good Neighbor Next Door program truly, like, as an example, if you look up homes in Florida, there might be 5 to 10 homes available for every cop, every firefighter, every teacher in the state of Florida to buy from, right? So it really was more giving crumbs to the people that serve in your community. Now, HUD defines first responder as law enforcement, fire, education, and healthcare. So what we did was we carbon copied that and utilized that because we didn't want to redefine what HUD defines a first responder as, right? Now, as this bill moves on, if a senator or congressman wants to add somebody, I love nurses. My mom's a nurse. She's an ER nurse. I'm very close to the ERs down here. Love them. 911 operators, right? So we get a lot of kickback because people are like, I can't believe you didn't include this person. I can't believe you didn't include this. Just a little bit of history on the VA home loan. The VA home loan, when it started in 1944, it was only for World War II veterans. A World War I veteran couldn't use it. How crazy is that? But a World War II could. So the point being is that the VA home loan has been around 77 years now. Everything evolves over time. So once we get the bill in and it actually starts and it becomes law, then we can start seeing things change and add up. So just for listeners out there, if they're wondering, why didn't you include them? Why didn't you do that? So I forgot your original question, why I actually went on that tangent, but
the police department awards.
Oh yeah. So I've been fortunate. I've met a lot of cool cops and we bust our tail just to be there for them. You know, we just had an officer, Jason Rayner, pass away. He got killed in the line of duty here in Daytona. And, you know, it's one of those things. I won't disclose numbers and stuff, but, you know, our COO flew down and we did as much as we could for the family. And it wasn't small. And the thing is, though, we didn't do it because we want the publicity. We didn't need the selfie, you know, and it was an honor. The chief, Jakari Young, he walked us up. The family was there. And I just remember seeing Jason's mom. And I said, ma'am, I don't really know what to say. I said, so can I just give you a hug? And she goes, do you realize how many people just wanted to, you know how many people I've seen and nobody's giving me a hug? She goes, I'd love a hug. Well, then my COO goes, hey, I'm a hugger too. And it was just one of the most surreal moments, you know, and we're trying to actually, so my second job in life down the road after the Helper Act passes, I'd love to get the Rayner Act done. The Rayner Act would be somehow if we could put laws in place that proactively we can actually identify people on social media that target cops and then have a way that social media needs to be taken down and stuff. So we did talk to Senator Scott's office about that actually already. I'm not going to lie. I dropped the ball in a lot of ways because the Helper Act's really it's been my life for years. But the Rayner Act would be something I'd love to see happen. And what I mean by the Rayner Act, the Rayner family has authorized me to say that we'd love to call it that in honor of Jason. But 2 weeks before he passed away, the scumbag that killed him literally wrote on Facebook, I can't wait to get the blood of pigs on my hands. Well, when you look at the guy, he's not a pig farmer, right? So something like that should have been tagged, should have been alerted, even taken down to the point that some local PD was notified. The other thing too is PDs, from my understanding, don't have bat phones. And what I mean by that, if I sat here and wrote, I'm going to kill Bobby the cop, right? Literally, you or your IT security guy supposedly can't pick up a phone and call Facebook and say, hey, we just got a threat, take it down. It takes like a week and a half for it to happen. That's BS. I don't know if I can curse on this, but that's so something like that would be in the Rayner Act where you guys would have access, or somehow there'd have to be some centralized system so that if an alert happened, because you are a sworn law enforcement officer, if you make that claim, they have to take it down for at least a period of time so it can be investigated and looked at. So yeah, I thought about that a lot too. So I do mortgages in my pastime.
I could tell.
Yeah.
No, this is great. Everything you're doing, this is really incredible.
Well, it goes back to the fact that, I wish I didn't give up my service early, and this is my way to continue it. So, I love the people I get to work with. When I busted my face, I remember the chief of police at the time of Daytona, I bled all over the shirt. It was Daytona Beach shirt and had a badge and stuff. And I said, Chief, I'm so sorry I bled all over your colors. And he goes, Sammy, do your colors too. What are you talking about? And I honestly wanted to give him a bro hug and just, of course my face was swollen. So they're walking up with me with beers, with straws, or like, here, you probably need this, because I couldn't open my mouth. But yeah, that brotherhood, and even though I don't have a badge, I've just been very fortunate to find a lot of them that love me for who I am, and I will fight tooth and nail to get them everything I possibly can in my life. That's my sole purpose in life.
Thank you. No, this is great. So actually, I'm going to lead into one of my questions with that. Would you do it all again?
For sure. Well, the Marine thing, I would probably change that and try and stay in. But other than that, everything I do now, I love what I do. Like I love, I've made a lot of mistakes in life, and I'm trying to make up for them, I guess you could say. But yeah, there's nothing, I wouldn't change anything in the world as far as where I'm at with the people I'm at. So I'm very fortunate.
So we have Heroes First Home Loans on the Heroes First podcast.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, what does a hero mean to you?
It means basically somebody that will sit there and forget self and do for others first. And, when I talk about heroes first, I always say heroes first is who we serve, and we do it through home loans. I also, my whole team, that team you brought up on your screen, every single one of them, their heart and their mission in life is not just about getting a loan. And that's what I love about them. That's where, you asked about us being nationwide. As we're spreading out, we're trying to find those people, that have that heart. Carmen, who's on my team, she lost her husband in the line of duty at Texas Tech in 2017. His name was Floyd. Well, Carmen, I met her because she runs a home for officers that they go through stressful situations. Well, they don't want to go to their commands. Well, she runs a place where they can go and take a couple of days, and it's like a relaxation, athletic stuff. So it's amazing. She did that through Floyd's passing, right? I met this woman at her retreat house. Well, she now works for our company because she has a heart and understands. She still runs her nonprofit, but she understands the opportunities that come through somebody purchasing a home, and through the Heroes First model. It's something unlike anybody else. And, there are a lot of companies that do honor people that serve, and I appreciate that and what they do. I just think we do it a little bit different.
So before I ask my last question, why don't you let everyone know again how to contact you, websites, and all that kind of good stuff?
It's actually website, just Heroes First or heroesfirsthomeloans.com. That's our main website. If they want to learn about the Helper Act, it's just thehelperact.us. And that's they can call me too. I can give my cell number. I don't care.
Put it down.
610-703-5626, which actually is 703 loan. I had that for like 25 years now. So they don't know the 610 area code.
What about an email address?
It's just Sam at Heroes First, and Heroes is spelled HEROES, and then First is spelled out FIRST.com. So,
great. No, this is excellent. So Sam, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Can I tell you one last thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a book coming out.
Okay.
So we have a book coming out. It's the title of it is Called to Serve. The book has the first couple chapters are law enforcement. The second couple chapters are firefighters, and the third chapters, when I say chapters, I'm sorry, like first section is police, second section is fire, third section is law enforcement. EMTs. And the book Called to Serve is about stories of people that just truly, again, got into this line of work, be it police, fire, EMT, not because they want to be millionaires. So I'll give you a little tidbit. So Lizette's our first chapter. So her brother, and she wouldn't mind me sharing this, she was actually a homicide investigator in Daytona. Her brother is spending the rest of his life in jail because he killed somebody.
Jeez.
Right. So here, in her chapter, she talks about that openly, about she wanted to be that police. Her brother was always in trouble, but she wanted to be that police officer that possibly could help that one person on the street. And she's been doing it for 21 years successfully. I can tell you that. And just, we have people in there, my sisters, my brother-in-law's in there. He's been an EMT pretty much his whole life. And just some of the stories they hear about the tragedies they have to go see. And even my father died of he fell and hit his head, but he had a form of Parkinson's called not gastroparesis, PSP. It's I can't even pronounce what it is, but it's a form of Parkinson's. And I just remember always seeing the guys. It was a little town called Emmaus, Pennsylvania. I'd see the police or I'd see the EMTs at a 7-Eleven. And I always say, hey, guys, I just want to say thanks for all you do. I said, you probably know my dad because my dad would fall. My mom couldn't pick him up. So they'd always have to go to his house to help him up. He wasn't huge. It's just my mom wasn't that strong. He was 200 pounds. And, they all knew who he was. And they always were fine going over there to help my dad get up. It didn't matter if there was snow, it didn't matter anything. And the saddest part, I just saw one of the guys and I said, hey, I don't know if you know my dad, he's passed. He goes, yeah, I was a guy that was there when he died. And I was like,
Wow.
But yeah, so that book, it's going to be coming out in 2022. There's already a publisher. It's actually Gary Sinise Foundation.
Okay.
Gary Sinise actually will pretty much be writing something in the book, I believe. Our one of the authors, the co-authors, she actually is very close with him. We actually have a guy, and I forgot his name, and I'm sorry, I should probably know it. He's one of the lead guys on Lone Star, the country group. So that's pretty cool. And so, yeah, we're pretty stoked about that book coming out because we're going to give that to every client that we have. We're going to actually send it to a lot of schools for human resources. So if some kid wants to come and be a firefighter, they can give this book and they can learn about some of the stories. My dog, I have a little pit bull, and she's just looking at me crying.
Will it be available on Amazon or anything?
I think so, yeah. So when I know more, I'll let you know about everything. But yeah, it's coming out in 2022. We have 2 more stories we have to write, and then basically we'll send it to the publisher. And Dava is her name. She's actually written a whole bunch of books. She's the ghostwriter, I guess you call it. And yeah, we're stoked about it. So yeah, like this is the kind of stuff I wish we can get coverage on because there's so many positive things. Look, we are a commercial company, Heroes First Home Loans. We pay the bills. We get to donate to organizations because of the mortgages we do, right? So yes, please, if you need a mortgage, we're the place to go. The side part of that is just the fact that everybody that's a part of us, our heart is 100% geared towards serving you guys. And it's at the end of the day, the Helper Act, I believe, is going to change this country's heart for what people truly look at that teacher, that EMT, that firefighter, and that police officer. I believe it's really going to lift some spirits. And anything you could do to help with some of these media gurus, man, I would owe you big time because
we'll talk offline.
We gotta get something. So yeah,
we'll talk offline. So one more question. I like to ask this question on my show all the time. First thing that pops into your head, not even thinking about it. If you were to have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly.
How come?
Because I always like Superman, and just the fact that I'll never forget in the Superman movie. And I don't want to get too religious here, but I think of Jesus thinking down and hearing everybody praying at the same time. The one Superman movie a couple of years ago, he flew up and he's just sitting there kind of in the clouds, but he's hearing everybody, just their cries for help. And, that power to be able to just be up there and hear. Now, obviously, you'd want the power to help, but just a way to be able to look at the earth and look how beautiful it is. But yet so many things in our country, be it politics, be it people, be it just the evil that's there. We live in such a beautiful place. And it's like, you can get out of bad situations. You can go to other situations. I just went to Sturgis. Then I drove down to Denver and actually fed a bunch of the Denver police officers. Well, when I drove down, we went through Wyoming. And I mean, it's totally open, totally just like 800 miles going crazy just because it's beautiful, right? And the thing is, it's like, this is America. This is the land of the free. And why we have so demonized it is beyond me. But, there's so much out there. And I think that flight, just to be able to take off and see everything. So I didn't even have to skip a beat when you asked me that question.
That was good. Yeah. Well, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love everything that you're doing. I want to help you spread this message around. We'll talk more offline about it. But everyone that's been listening, thank you all for joining this episode of Heroes First Podcast. And we'll see you all next time. Take care, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Heroes First Podcast with Robert Garland. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, share, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, make sure to visit fundthefirst.com and follow us on social media at fundthefirst. See you next time.